Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars on the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup. Tiff, you crack on this week because there's a load going on.
Weekend
I don't know where to start.
Well, throughout the world, were two huge dramas, one in America and one, of course, in Mexico, where Max finally got his comeuppance. We shall go through that in detail. Down in Thailand, MotoGP, this battle between Bagnaia and Jorge Martin for this amazing fight for the championship. Then over in NASCAR, huge drama in Miami, joy for Reddick, but big woes for Larson. I'm down under in Australia. We had the supercar round at Paradise, Surfers Paradise. Kostecki dominated that. Well, back home, Chris Ingram won the British Rally Championship. All good. And of course, we should mention, I think, one of your favourites, the record breaker running.
Well, I mentioned Billy Monger. Yeah, Billy Monger a few weeks ago had a bit of bad luck, but wow, he certainly put that to right in terms of karma over the weekend. Oh. What an achievement! So double amputee set the World Ironman record, smashed it by over 2 hours.
It was like a 3-hour swim, a 6-hour cycle ride, and a 4-hour run. It's something absolutely incredible.
3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometers cycle on the bike, and a 42 kilometer, so 26-mile marathon at the end of it.
Hats off.
Yeah, well done, Billy.
But where do we start?
Turn 4? Turn 7?
Or turn 7? Which one? Yes. I think to most people's pleasure, apart from our friend Yeri, our friend who'll be commenting probably down below, and the whole of Holland, we all really think that, finally, but we say finally, it was to the rule guidelines. So the punishments were where Max has got away with it, in most people's opinion, for so long. This time, the trouble is the rules they made, which of course Max has made the most of, is more like VAR in football. They have to get who was first at the apex. It's like, was someone's big toe offside in football? They get the two lines out, don't they? And if the big toe's offside, it's offside, and it's not. And Max has made big use of this fact that first the apex has the right of way, even if it's only by half a wheel nut. But this time at turn 4, Lando got past on the outside, turning into the tight third turn 4. Of course, these S corners always cause a big problems. All these, when you have to go left and right, it's always you defend at the first, then you crash each other on the way out. But Lando was ahead, and Max ran him off the road. So it was a slam dunk, I think. But then this is turn 7. I think even Martin Brundle, who sometimes sits a bit on the fence because he's very responsible at Sky of trying to be fair to all the customers, everything. Even he said, because early on they gave the 10-second penalty for turn 4, and it all went quiet, didn't it? And Martin was saying, well, surely there's going to be another penalty coming, And obviously the stewards had thought a bit longer about turn 7. Because Martin said, that was dangerous, right? That wasn't just a silly lunge. And it just seemed Max, brain boiling over, frustration. Yeah. Dives up the inside of turn 7, and Lando had to go. They both went off, and he got another 10-second penalty, quite rightly. But Lando was saying it was dangerous, and he did get. Today they've given him 2 points on his license or something, added a bit to the penalties. But
you've got to think that Lewis Hamilton went through this for years and years and years and years, and fair play to Max. He pushed it to the limit of the rules, and it was always the limit of the rules. But he was always on the edge, and I am glad because. But the trouble is,
the limit of the rules puts your fellow drivers in danger.
Of course it does. And look what he just did to his mate Lando. But there's no mates there when you're racing. No. Lando's trying to be so polite and say, "Oh yeah, but Max is a lovely man," and because obviously he's one of his muckers. But the reality is, he was as cheesed off as everybody else. But so I'm pleased, not because it's Max, because I just think he's a phenomenal driver. But when he's under pressure, he makes mistakes, and a lot of the guys do. We'll come on to Charles Leclerc in a moment as well. But a lot of the younger guys seem to make a lot of mistakes. But Max it's not just about making mistakes. He just gets really aggressive and nasty with his helmet on, and you can hear that in his voice how he's speaking to his engineer.
Yeah, sarcastic. It's always sarky. I think him and Christian Horner must be the most unliked pairing of any Formula One team at the moment. But you say Max is a lovely outside. He's a great character. He says what he thinks. He's a really nice bloke. But it is, if he's in a car that's not dominant and he's battling with people, he battles, to the absolute maximum and but beyond. And everyone's related this incident of Turn 7 back to Brazil in 2021, when he just ran Lewis off the road. Both of them went miles off the road. And you just can't allow that to happen. I said, there's now they've had a meeting. They've had a meeting. George Russell today to come out, because he's the Grand Prix Drivers Association president. And they've had meetings over the weekend in Mexico about this, the guidelines. And all he's quoted is saying 19 out of 20 of the drivers have agreed on the guidelines without mentioning who might be the one that hasn't, which, of course, may not be Max. We don't know. But the track, there was a lot of stuff going on in Mexico because, again, it's circuit design. And circuit design, when you have the DRS zones before an S bend, always creates these problems. It's designed into them because obviously the guy defending goes down the inside. So the overtaker, like all these moments, goes down the outside, gets half a car length ahead on the outside, and then has to turn across the bow. So then they always end up side by side after the first element of the S. Then, of course, on the second element of the S, they're all side by side when they arrive there. And then you have to decide who has the right of way. And that's the hardest thing, to write a rule, which is where it's gone wrong. Writing a rule as to who has the right of way. I think we both agree, if you imagine a wall is up there on the exit of the corners, then you have to sort of drive within the walls. But we had more penalties because there's the two youngsters trying to prove themselves for next year, Franco Colapinto and Liam Lawson, caused quite a bit of controversy. Whoa. Yeah. Liam Lawson especially, he's got a funny character. His interview, he never really shows much humour. He's always got a very stern face. And, of course, he had a run-in with Alonso in America. Alonso said, come on, son, you don't drive like that here. And now Perez has come out and said, this kid's got to wake up a bit if he's going to go anywhere in Formula One, or whatever words he used to that effect. But I think maybe Liam, who wants that Red Bull drive, probably thinks if he drives like Max, he'll get the seat for next year. So... that's huge pressure. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to prove that he's the one. And of course, Yuki's trying to do the same thing. And then Yuki fell off and did in Q2. We'll come to that later. Got the qualifying.
Did you see Liam Lawson flip the bird at Perez?
No. What stage?
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
He flipped the bird as he was overtaking him. Yeah,
but but he didn't get penalised for that one, didn't he? Amazing. That was a sort of side by side. Which I thought he would get done for. But he actually got away with that one because he was going around the outside of Perez, and Perez ran him off the road, and then he crossed the apex of the turn 5 and clobbered him. Oh, my goodness. But Colapinto was with Lawson as well. So the fine for Colapinto was he tried to hang on the outside, and Lawson then came in, and then Lawson at the line. And who was it? Then Colapinto went off the road and clobbered his rear wheel. Well, his front wing he got, didn't he? Because Lawson had to come in and have front wing done. So the Colapinto got a 5-second penalty 10-second retrospectively, and a point on his licence. But those two are just there, and they're both doing an amazing job. We're rookies.
Colapinto from nowhere, really. Yeah. Lawson had at least had a bit of a track record, but Colapinto from nowhere, and I know Alex Albon is. He's had a bit of bad luck the last couple of races.
There's another but bad luck and pressure. Because Albon's every driver's biggest competitor is your teammate. There's pride involved here. You don't want to be mugged and shown up. Your whole future record in 3 years' time, who out-qualified who in that teams. They always have the list up. And the crash he had with Behrman in free practice, FP1, I think was a sign of someone that sort of wants to get on with it. Because you can see Behrman for 2 or 3, those horrible 7, 8, 9,
Me too.
10.
Yeah.
You can see it. You can see Behrman was there. Yeah. And actually, in fact, Behrman, so I saw them in the racing line. Behrman was on the bit of track they don't normally use. They normally only use half the road on that left and then go to the left to take the next right. To Behrman, but it just didn't want to give up a lap. Alexander. He's obviously on a good lap and wanted that good lap to be recorded. And so he just, certain circumstances, however much the guy's trying to get out of the way, and in a high-speed, long S-bend series of corners, he should have just backed out a bit. So therefore, he put himself in problems. And then, of course, he was one ended up in Yuki. So the two drivers tried to beat off their youngsters, clash at turn one, and puts them both out of the race. So they both had a miserable weekend, sort of trying to prove themselves against their young rookies.
They certainly did. It's a big old crash, that.
Oh, yeah, I know. We've had some Russell going off again, destroying his Mercedes again, just losing it. Yeah. He was sort of saying, I'd take that same line every lap. I mean, he was about 3 feet more inside of the apex than anybody else dared to. And most of the drivers sort of just put their inside wheel over the edge of the curb so they could use it as a railway line. But I mean, George was like 3 feet more to the right.
He thought he was doing BTCC or something, I think.
I don't think he's taken that line on every lap, which is what he claimed, because they said, I do that every lap. And then all of a sudden it's crashed.
Yeah.
Q1 is just huge drama in Q1 because both Piastri and Perez. And Perez, I just felt sorry for him in Mexico. I just felt, he should have been dropped before the summer break. The car doesn't suit him. He doesn't suit the car. And as soon as the pressure's on, you don't drive that well. You cannot. I think they pointed out is watching him through the corners. He's a bit sort of nervous. That's because it's all in your body and in your arms. Your hands tense up and you hold the steering wheel a bit tight.
Yeah.
And I just felt he shouldn't have been there. And it just, he didn't qualify to get up Q1.
Perez has had more Q1 exits than Yuki and Liam Lawson.
Isn't that
incredible?
And then Piastri made this mistake. That turn, I don't know what the number is, 12, where Yuki crashed in Q2, whatever it was of course, Piastri went wide. It's one of the very few track limit corners, I think. Somebody else was self-limiting. But
again, where's that confidence gone from winning Grand Prix and podiums?
He was quickest in FP3, and his lap in FP3 would have made him fastest in Q1, second fastest in Q2, and even got him sixth on the grid. So he's got the lap time in him, but first he ruins the task. And the huge frustration of it when you watch modern Formula One is that if you make a mistake on your lap with the tyres at their perfect temperature and they're perfect, they're new, you can't then go again. You've got to then recharge all your batteries, slow down, cool things off. Maybe the engine hasn't got enough fuel in, you might not be able to do another lap. In the olden days, if you make a small mistake on one lap, you kick yourself and you go straight again on another lap. The tyres are now on lap 2 instead of lap 1, but as long as you kept the temperature up, you always had that chance of, no, you can't now.
Yeah.
You've got to cross the finish line, swear at yourself for making a mistake, turn all the knobs and dials,
drive 3 miles to get back in the pits.
Yeah, the pressure on those one laps in Q1, Q2, Q3 are immense, and if you get it wrong, as I said, Yuki in Q2, there he was trying to get into the top 10. And Lawson was, I could have got in the top 10 if that Japanese bloke hadn't cocked up. But, both RBs were on a better lap that could have put them into the top 10, but Yuki caused the red yellows, and so Liam didn't make it either. Neither did the Aston Martins, who still seemed to cruise around, and poor old Fernando with his special crash helmet to celebrate his fame and fortune. I don't like all that mucking about. We all know he's great. 400. Didn't have a very good 400th weekend. It's not his 400th Grand Prix, as someone's pointed out, is it? Because he didn't qualify or didn't start one race or two. I don't know. And then Q3, we just had this Carlos Sainz perfection, and in the race, and it was bizarre watching him, thinking, where's he going next? Who's he driving for? Is he driving for Red Bull?
Ferrari?
Oh no,
Mercedes.
Williams. I think he's going to have a hard. Because I think Albon will beat him at Williams, and I think that's going to be because Carlos will find it very hard to motivate himself. I think because that was a supreme.
I don't know. I think Albon now has shown that he's not as good as maybe we thought he was.
Maybe
he's struggling a bit. Do you know that could be Carlos Sainz's last ever Formula One win?
Well, yeah,
we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
because he's not going to win in a Williams unless he gets incredibly lucky. Maybe pours down rain and the strategy's lucky.
Or the 2026 regulations. You know,
absolutely.
If Williams
crack it.
do a brawn, and come out with something. So in Q3, amazing pole, 0.225 ahead of everybody else. I mean, it was a stunning lap by Carlos.
It was.
Max pulled a rabbit out of the hat as usual to get second on the grid, despite the
he's so good at qualifying. Well, he's so good at racing as well, but he's so good at those flying laps when the pressure's on.
And K-Mag 7th, I've written. Which team's K-Mag going? 7th on the grid, and God, they must be queuing up to sign K-Mag. And no. I hope K-Mag gets a good drive in either IndyCar or World Sports Cars, because he's such a great character. He loves the sport. He's a big lover of motorsport, the history of the sport.
So who would you have, Bottas or K-Mag?
Or K-Mag, Yuki? Any day.
Yeah, me too.
Yuki. Well, I don't know, for Sauber.
So would you have Yuki or would you have K-Mag if it wasn't about contracts and stuff?
Oh, I don't know. No,
I wouldn't have Yuki.
I'm on the fence
with
that.
Yeah,
I'm on the fence. I don't know. Yuki.
Everyone loves Yuki. He's like a Daniel. He's a lovable character, but he's not that consistent. K-Mag, but K-Mag he's always there.
So come to the race itself. Poor old Checo's world gets even worse when he lines up on the wrong part of the grid on his 18th grid position. Lines up over the line, gets a 5-second penalty.
But then how can he not know? He's on the radio saying, "No, I was okay. Can you check that? I think I was okay."
Well, I don't know. I don't know how they see the line. It's quite a big line, isn't it? You put your front wheel, but you can't see the bottom of your wheel, can you? I never saw any film to show how bad it was, how much over. I never saw it.
It was like a foot over.
But then turn one, we had poor old Yuki heading into the wall at very high speed. And it was one of those typical 3 wides. I think it was Gasly on the inside of Albon, and Gasly moved slightly, coming to get a bit more.
Nowhere to go. Yep.
Therefore, Albon squeeze. It was old Crofty was going. I watched the first replay, and I thought, well, Yuki doesn't move. You know, someone barged into him, and twice Crofty said, "Well, Yuki moved in." Yuki, I don't know if he's got a beef, but it definitely wasn't. Yuki was a dead straight line, and he was going past Albon because he had extra momentum for the slipstream. When Albon just moved that 3 inches that Gasly moved on him, probably.
Maybe I was a bit delicate or something yesterday, but God, Crofty sounded shouty yesterday watching that. It was like wow, shouting non-stop for the first
I just turned the volume down. And when that battle in Road America and Kota, you know, when they were side by side, Lando and Max, those last few laps, I'm watching the pictures. You don't have to tell me. He's on the outside now. He's cutting back. I'm watching my pictures, Crofty. You don't have to tell me. You're not a radio. I'm not listening to the radio.
He's a brilliant asset, and his knowledge is phenomenal.
It's a great character.
But sometimes just gets a bit like Harry Benjamin. I think is a bit more, just a bit more flowing and lets the pictures do the talking a lot.
But the producers like a bit shouty, I think, anyway. They think it makes it exciting when it's not. But of course, Max got the lead at the start. Briefly, then of course the restart after the safety car soon got him. Then it all kicked off with the Lando versus Max. And the race after that was a pretty good start. The best battle of the race was actually Lewis and George. They didn't show enough of it. There was loads of moments when Lewis and George were side by side rounds turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot going on there. We saw Max coming back to 6th, which is quite a good run. Then you've seen Piastri. I think Perez got up to about 14th from 18th on the first 2 laps, whereas Piastri went nowhere, and he ended up 8th. You know, having been with Max having a 20-second park up at the side of the road, Piastri was still 5 seconds behind him, so he had a rubbish race as well. Oscar, not just making that mistake. So it's really weird. Sometimes he doesn't really come to the game, come to the party. K-Mag a great 7th, he finished 7th. Hulk 9th, great for Haas, wasn't it? They had a good weekend, and Gasly actually got 10th. But the save by Leclerc that was awesome. When he was trying to get on the power out of Peralta. Formula One cars don't like drifting much, and the snap, it was so quick, wasn't it? He caught that one. He was off the road. Luckily, he had that runoff area to go to.
I was watching with some mates, and I said 1,000,000% he will have to change his overalls after that. That
was an incredible save. Of course, he might be in trouble now because the press conference said, "Oh, obviously it was. I said, oh fuck! Oh no, I've said fuck now. Oh, if you can't say fuck when describing a moment like that, because that was a huge moment." And then the final insult for Checo we had at the end because Leclerc stopped to get fastest lap. And then so they send Checo out to take the fastest lap when he can't even do that. Oh, he ended up last. He was last. That was 17th. Nobody finished.
Insult
last.
To injury. Come on, Checo, put a new set of softs on. Let's get the fastest lap. Oh, okay. Well, we missed.
Of course, you know the real winner of the Mexican Grand Prix. Did you see that? I mean, I think someone thought he won it. Did you not see the real winner waving to the crowd, Mexican flag? It was Brad Pitt.
I saw, Brad Pitt.
It was Brad. Obviously, a bit of a spoiler for the video, the film, because you're pretty certain that when it comes to the Mexican Grand Prix, it's going to be Brad that wins it. I love YouTube and stuff, and Twitter. Someone's already pointed out that he's waving to the crowd with his gloves on. And he says, no Grand Prix driver. You can't take your helmet and your hands off and your balaclava with your gloves still on. The first thing you do as a driver is take your gloves off. Of course, someone on Twitter said, don't be such a tosser, but it's always funny things like that.
But it is the detail of continuity. It is, it's like when you see Ford versus Ferrari, they're going down the Mulsanne straight and they go to overtake, so they're downshift.
Looking at each other.
Downshift.
The biggest simple thing they got wrong in reality in the Le Mans film was those old blue overalls. Everyone used those Dunlop pale blue overalls. Once you've done a stint in any race, your back was dark blue with sweat. And they had the drivers getting out at driver changes, and they just had pale blue overalls. It was little things, like you say, like leaving the gloves on or something. And that was the simplest way of showing that a driver's been working hard, is to soak the back of their overalls with water and make it look like they've been sweating. Little things. It's little things.
It is
so
little things.
It's a good circuit, mate. I love watching Mexico. So I raced there in the World Sports Car Championship in '89, and I know what all those sweeps are like, especially the heavy. Porsche 962 had some of the heaviest steering, and I won't forget going through turn 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 on my halfway through the second hour in a seat. And of course, we went round the outside of the baseball stadium, which they all fiddle through at the moment now. That Peralta corner in fourth gear, I think it was about 140 miles an hour, 130 miles an hour. That was an awesome corner. It had a big bump. 3/4 of the way around, there's a big bump. And I was hanging onto the steering. It's all so low because the faster you go with the ground effect, you always, when you're tired, you wait for the bump because you almost feel like it's going to knock the steering out of your hands. It's such a big kick. But happy days, Mexico. So
how many times you raced there? How many times you raced there?
Just the once. The World Sport.
Okay.
We finished fourth. Me and Derek Bell, last round of the championship in 1989.
Amazing.
Porsche 962.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So where do we go? So off we go to, well, they were Thailand. They were MotoGPs.
No Susie Perry.
Well, she has to have a weekend off, Susie. You can't wear her out too much. This fantastic battle with Jorge Martin. Jorge Martin arrived at Malaysia with a 20-point championship lead over Francesco Bagnaia. And the great thing about this battle, it's not just the two of them, because we've got these other two wild cards here, Marc Marquez on a satellite Ducati and Enea Bastianini on the factory Ducati. But Bastianini's been dropped because they're putting Marquez in his seat, so there's a bit of a grudge there. Jorge Martin thought he should have had Bastianini's seat in the Ducati factory team, but they didn't pick him, so he's gone to Aprilia. And of course, if he wins the championship, he'll take number 1 to Aprilia. So sort of Ducati want Bagnaia to win, but then Bastianini wants to keep on showing. Bastianini's going to, he's getting Pedro Acosta's seat. He's going to KTM next year. So Bastianini's changing seats. Martin's changing. In fact, the only one staying on the same bike of those four is Pecco Bagnaia. So there's this little background drama, you know. And Marquez, even though he's going to be Bagnaia's teammate next year, shows no signs of wanting to help him at all because he just wants to win races. That is Marc Marquez. And or maybe he sort of wants to plant his foot on the map for next season to Bagnaia, saying, look, I'm going to be quicker than you next year, pal.
But wouldn't you want to help your fellow Spaniard?
But none of them do they? It just seems to be. Well, he's not. He's Italian.
Because they seem mates.
Bagnaia's Italian.
Yeah, but Marquez and Martin are both Spanish.
Yeah. So he's either going to help.
And then Bagnaia
Who does he help? His teammate for next year or his fellow Spaniard? Who's going to be
fellow Spaniard this year?
No, I think it's great. They just race.
But they're mates. They're mates. They're mates. They're mates. So you tell me who. So Lando would help Max over Lewis, that's because Max is his mate.
You're just scrambling my head now. I don't care, but none of them do, and the racing is all the better for it.
I think it's all about themselves, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they're not going to be thinking, "Oh, I better slow down a bit here."
They just want to win.
Wedge myself. Yeah, I just want to win the race.
Just wants to win. Yeah. So we had the sprint race. In fact, Martin dropped it in qualifying, but he still qualified third. He fell off. They're always falling off, these bike boys. But Bagnaia, so the start of the sprint race, that's right, Martin pushed Bagnaia wide, dived up the inside, took them both virtually off the track at turn one. So Enya Bastianini took the lead and held it to the end of the sprint race. And who came second? I think it was the sprint race. So Martin dropped down to third in the end, but fought back, got past Bastianini. So Bagnaia came first, but he didn't. Bastianini won the sprint race, didn't he? I've forgotten now. No, he didn't. No, Martin won it. I'm reading qualifying. I'm reading qualifying order. Sorry. So Martin won the sprint race. Who came second? Marquez must have been second. No, Marquez was fourth. Martin was second. Bagnaia third. Bastianini won it. So Martin increased his championship in the sprint race. And guess what Pedro Acosta did?
I know what he did.
He crashed. Again. Oh, and he's only just come back from his injury, so he's a bit in pain. So once again, he's just trying to keep up with those four Ducatis. The four Ducatis are just the fastest four at the moment. And Pedro just wants to stay with them. So we then had a wet Grand Prix on the Sunday, which was all looked a bit terrifying to me. But Martin got the best start there. But then eventually Bagnaia and Marc Marquez overtook Jorge. Jorge didn't seem to be as quick in the wet. And then we talk about looking after his job for next year. Well, he had a couple of dive bomb attacks on Bagnaia for the lead into the hairpins. You know, all the Ducati people must have been, no. I mean, he got away with it twice. I think he had a real old dive bomb go, but Bagnaia left in the room and went around the outside and got the drive onto the next straight. And eventually Marquez dumped the front end, trying to get a bit closer onto the straights. And the front folded up. So Marquez was out crashing again. Which is unfortunate away for Bagnaia because now Martin cruised to second. Meanwhile, Pedro Acosta came through to finish third. He survived one. He came from about sixth or seventh. I think he had a bad first lap. And he overtook the two factory KTMs. Of course, he's going to be on the factory KTM. It was a bit of a shame because Jack Miller, the one that's vacating the factory KTM for Pedro Acosta to get on to next year, was running third, and you know he's getting pushed. I think he's in a satellite Aprilia or something, or a satellite KTM next year. But you know, it's his last chance to get a podium probably. But Pedro wasn't having that. So all of that, Martin now has a lead of 17 points, which I think that's probably going to be enough. And this is a big disaster. There's only 2 rounds to go now, 2 sprints, 2 Grand Prix. But entertaining as always, Moto2, Aaron Canet.
Where does it end? So it's Indonesia next week, I think.
And then Valencia. I can't stand it. It's the most stupid go-kart track with miles of track limits everywhere. It's sort of like a test circuit, sort of where all the children drive round and round in their 1-2 Moto3s. And so it's where the Spanish all sit the whole winter, testing and testing and testing, which is why English kids don't have the same opportunity. Especially because that's what Pedro Costa and they all did that, just go round and round Valencia all day long in the winter. So what have we had there? Moto2, Aaron Canet, yes, the much tattooed Canet had another dominant win. But the story in Moto2 was all about Ogura coming second, claiming the championship. All the usual number ones, pit boards, overalls, t-shirts, everything. World champion. There's never been. He's got to ride in MotoGP. I think only about 2 or 3 are going up to MotoGP next year. He's got a sort of satellite Aprilia for next year, which won't be a race winner. But there's never been a Japanese MotoGP champion in the top class. So maybe Ogura is the name for the future. Jake Dixon, a very quiet weekend, our only British rider, qualified 11th and finished 7th, or the other way around. I can't remember which. Never seemed to be on it. And Moto3 was won by taking the lead on the last lap, halfway round, and we lost the lead, was, of course, David Alonso, this ridiculously talented Colombian. Scott Ogden, our British rider, he had qualified 6th and was on the back of the pack, and he ended up 8th. He sort of dropped to the back. It was a slightly damp, puddly start. And what worse people talk about on wets, but everyone went on slicks. But Scott said his bike on slicks was good in the dry patches, but not in the wet patches. So he was just hanging on the back of the lead pack, which is good. Whereas his new teammate, Eddie O'Shea, he did decide to go. He was the only one that went for wets. He's a complete novice to these tracks. And of course, it was a brilliant idea because there was rain threatened. Had it poured with rain, Eddie O'Shea would have won his second ever Grand Prix probably. As it was, he gave up the struggle once his tyres had turned to molten rubber. So, but there were still 6. There were 2 teammates. I forget the name of the team. The Turquoise boys. They took each other out. So that would be a happy team. Team meeting after the race, but it's spectacular. They're just children racing and elbowing each other. Awesome entertainment as always. Yes, in NASCAR. Oh my goodness! You've got to start watching NASCAR.
Kicking off.
You've only 2 races to go. You've got to get with the drama of NASCAR because this was the last race where we cut 8 down to 4. And those 4 then have 1 race, and the person that finishes higher up, whatever the order, takes the championship. And of course, last week we had a huge drama of Joey Logano, who didn't get into the last 8 until the 48 was disqualified from Logano. So Logano only got in. And then he went and won the race last weekend, which locks him in. He's gone from 8 to the points to getting guaranteed one of those 4 spots. So we head out now to the Homestead track in Miami. We've got all these superstars, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, all very badly off on points. So all needing a win to get through. Any one of those 4 to win, and they were locked into the last 4. And it was a fantastic, I think all of them led at one stage of the race. And it ended up at the end after a restart, and Reddick had held back because he had to go and change tyres a bit off. We had this amazing last couple of laps. Blaney was mainly doing most of the leading, and then I think Hamlin was leading, and Tyler Reddick then came from 3rd to 2nd, then going down to the last corner, the last lap, with Blaney, who looked like he had it all under control. But when you're going into like a 4-wide banking, you've got to then pick which of the lanes is going to be the best bet. Is Reddick going to dive under me or go round me? And Blaney said he thought he went in as quick as he could to like lane 3, and Reddick just launched it round the outside, an inch from the wall, 150, 60 miles an hour to take the win and lock himself in. Because in fact, Reddick was only the 8th qualifier before he was promoted because of the disqualification back at wherever it was they were on that road course. So Reddick's come from almost being out of it to now being locked in. And the person that should be champion, the best driver, of course, in the number 5, Kyle Larson, had a nightmare. He had a slow puncture, which eventually put him in the wall, put him at the back of the grid. He's ranked 32nd, and he virtually worked his way up, and actually got into 2nd place, challenging Blaney for the lead and the win that would lock them in. And he came out of turn 4 right up against the wall, but they were catching a back marker that was turned wide, and Blaney was down in lane 3. And so Larson came down and tried to squeeze through the gap, but lost control. He then had this amazing spin, which went on for about half a mile sideways with the rear wheels lit up. And actually went on board with him in the replay. So he's lost control at 170, 60 miles an hour. And you can hear him throwing the throttle. In the middle of it, it was on opposite lock. In the middle of it, he changes down a gear. You can hear him change down, then fire the throttle again to hold this drift, just to hold it. So you're keeping it away from the wall. But the car was never the same afterwards, and he plummeted in the end down to 13th. So points, he was hemorrhaging points. And he's now 7 points below the cut line and not going to make the last 4. So we got Logano locked in, Reddick locked in. We've got Christopher Bell, he's plus 29 points ahead of the cut line. So he looks pretty safe. But then you've got William Byron, who's 7 points in, and Kyle 7 points out. And they're teammates. They're in the same teams. They're not going to do any of its favours. So huge tension. Can you feel that tension now?
I can feel it.
Because they're going to the Martinsville half mile this weekend, a real battleground, half a mile of defending strategy. And the last 4 races, right, at the track have been won by Byron, Blaney, Larson, and Bell. So all 4 of the drivers, or 3 of the 4 drivers need to win to go through, have won this race. So that's God, can you not feel the tension now?
The tension is unbelievable. I'm excited.
You have little faith. Oh, it's just turning left. Yeah, it's only turning left. That's a silly sport. It's only turn left. Fabulous. Fabulous, entertaining motorsport.
How long does it go on for?
For the races?
Yeah.
About 3 hours.
What's a race?
3 hours. Depends how many yellow flags and red flags and crashes and stuff.
So for the green light to the checkered flag is about 3 hours, typically.
Yeah, possibly. You watch it times, go get it on Sky, watch it times 30 when it gets boring. Well, like most motorsport, I watch all my motorsport at times 30. Finally, we go down under to Australia for the 500 miler at Surfers Paradise. It was a bit of a long, dull race, actually. Brody Kostecki dominated it in his Camaro.
What sort of track is it? Is it a road track?
Real good street course. No, street course. Blasting down the beach. There was actually only one full course yellow. It was a 10-car pile-up on lap 1, which only actually caused 1 retirement. So the other 9 got away with it all.
That's good.
Kostecki cruised. Schaefer Chaz Mostert in the Mustang, the only person third of the championship, still a points possibility of winning the championship. He had to make an extra pit stop because his crew had used the wrong fuel rig or something on a refuel, so he got to drive through whatever we got.
It's so annoying as a driver when your crew cock
no.
up, especially at that sort of level.
So the only people left to go to Adelaide in the middle of November to decide the title between the 2 Red Bull teammates in their Chevys, with Will Brown having a reasonable points gap over his teammate Brock Feeney. Meanwhile, back home, British Rally Championship up in those wonderful stages of North Wales was won by Chris Ingram, took the Pro Bite British Rally Championship title in his Toyota Yaris. Congratulations to Chris. It was a great battle, a whole battle between him and William Crichton. They're virtually level on points, and they were like seconds apart through every stage, but Ingram just won it from Crichton. Rallying. And that concludes our trip around the world, for where we look for motorsport entertainment and controversy and drama. And it's all
There's
there.
Plenty of that. There was plenty of that. So we go where next week?
Brazil, the wonderful Interlagos circuit, which is always so spectacular to look at.
Have you raced there?
Again, more control. Another S-bend after, so always causes, always S-bends just cause crashes. No, never raced there, never been there. So that'll be great to watch. The World Endurance Championship finishes at sort of Bahrain, which many people watch 6 hours around Bahrain. They always sort of need those new circuits sometimes. The corners are quite good, but it's just sort of the surroundings, isn't it? If you haven't got trees and woods and grass.
I've driven around Bahrain, and it's actually, you get a bit of undulation as well. They're obviously very fast, very long. But there is
the left free, the end of the back straight. Yeah, where they all over tight left, then a tight, which it's like over a crest, so like going uphill into it, which the telly doesn't show. But those two, they're so tight in a road car. It shows how Formula One cars need really tight corners to slow them down enough for the braking.
Must be turn 8 or 9 where it goes down right and then it goes left. It goes really quite steep down the hill, and then you got to left back behind the grandstands.
Well, turns 1, 2, and 3, that's sort of over the top of the hill, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
No, that's all flat. That's up towards flat up.
I'm on the wrong track then. I'm in Abu Dhabi.
Bahrain is where the you've got that building that's sort of really cool round building.
Track. Sorry, I was in the wrong circuit then.
I raced in the Middle East.
I raced in Bahrain, the celebrity racing Holden Camaro things.
Brilliant. So you know what I mean? It must be turn 8 or 9 where it goes down the hill, down to the right, and then sharp left.
I turn left uphill, then over the top of the hill before the penultimate corner. Anyway, MotoGP boys, Malaysia. It'll happen during our nights, so get your recorders ready to watch MotoGP. It's great. You wake up on a Sunday morning, you watch Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP. An hour will do it, fast forwarding. And as I said, the NASCAR boys are at Martinsville.
Can I ask you a question now that we know what's going on next week? couple of weeks' time, would it take you long to prepare for a Japanese Super Formula drive if you're going to be driving one of those cars?
I've got to get down the gym now, you mean? Start doing my neck exercises. They're quick, Super Form. They've got ground effect and downforce and stuff. I haven't driven a downforce car for about 100 years.
I think they're the second quickest to Formula One. I think, apparently, allegedly, they're the second quickest cars to Formula One. So you might want to get down the gym, because I might have some.
You're going to get me right.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. So we'll see. Watch this space. Until then, you're going to be aching the day after. I know that. Thanks for joining. We'll see you soon.
Cheers, all. Bye.
See you next week.
Are we on Spotify yet?
I think so. I think it's all been fixed. Oh, technology. Technology is amazing until it goes wrong. But we should be on Spotify.
Cheers, all. Bye.
See you.